And so this is a web-based portal. So what happens is the user enters in the data into the system via either a manual entry or a bulk upload or an API connection. And once they upload that information, you're talking, carrier name, MC, DOT number, all of the stuff that you would validate, the pickup location and the delivery location.
Yeah.
They initiate a text message that gets sent to the driver. The driver then has to enter a 2-mile geofence around the shipper. Once they do that, they click a link. It provides their location back to Quikskope. In addition to that, they click on a button that opens up their camera, and they are instructed to take a photo of the side of the truck depicting the MC and or DOT number, whatever's on the side of the truck, including the company name. Once they provide their location, again, that comes from the phone's web browser, cannot be entered manually, and they provide the photo with the MC and DOT number. They submit that information back to Quikskope. Quikskope then verifies that the information provided by the driver matches the information that was entered by the user, and they're then release the pickup number.
Welcome to the ThinkFreight Podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Werdine, and it's my pleasure to have Ed Mangino Jr. and Matt Patterson. They're the co-founders of Quikskope. Ed, Matt, thanks for coming on the show today. I appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Thomas. Appreciate it.
No, of course. So I'll be frank. This is the first time I've done a dual founder podcast. I usually just do one-on-ones. I'm honestly really excited to do it because, it's the first time for everything. And you guys are really, really interesting in terms of what you guys are building and what you guys are doing. And I think it'll be fun to kind of get both perspectives in terms of kind of how you guys met and some of the fun aspects of kind of your background. But let's dive right in from here. Let's kind of talk about who you guys are. How did you guys get into the freight industry, and kind of how did you guys two meet originally?
Yeah, sure. I'll start. I started at C.H. Robinson back in 2008. Kind of like most folks, I think, in brokerage stumbled.
Listen,
into
perfect time to get into brokerage, right? 2008, right as the recession would start. Perfect time to get into brokerage.
Yeah, well, great time to graduate college and then
no kidding.
Brokerage. I mean, it was great. So so I jumped into Robinson. I didn't even know what logistics was. I went to school for pharmaceutical marketing and management. I thought it was going to be a drug rep. It was the sexy sales job, right? That go play golf with doctors all the time. And again, the economy just did not work out well for the timing of me graduating. But wound up at C.H. Robinson down in Paulsboro, New Jersey. It was actually a produce office. So we brokered produce as well as transported that produce. But we had existing outside relationships as well. And so really started out in carrier sales, booking trucks, building a capacity base. Did that for about 6 to 8 months and then wound up in account management. Really found myself gravitating more towards the customer side of things. Eventually wound up in outside sales, leaned into implementation, which I had a ton of fun with, learned a lot about end-to-end global solutions and designing them. That part was really cool. And then had an opportunity to move to Tampa with C.H. Robinson and did so about 6 years ago. So moved out of the Philly office down here to Tampa, spent 5 years down here managing the floral consolidation program. A bunch of folks on the team there, managed those folks in that business. And so learned a whole new supply chain, again, another interesting, difficult and complicated supply chain, but a lot of fun. Everything's on fire at all times. So it's pretty cool. But that's where Matt and I met originally back in Jersey. We actually commuted to work together for a couple of years. So that was a fun journey. Definitely a lot of debates on music on the way in. But go ahead, Matty. Give a little bit about your background.
Those debates have settled from what I can tell. Anyway, we're in a better place. Ed and I, we've known each other, like you said. I started at Robinson. Ed had been there a little bit before me. I started in 2010. Also, like Ed, I really didn't know what logistics was. Until you're in it, you kind of just assume this stuff shows up at your house, right? You don't really think about why. At the time, I had followed my now wife to Philadelphia. I was looking for a job and just thought, hey, well, this seems interesting, and I had no idea what I was getting into. And then, connected with Ed, and actually we've got a couple co-founders. And all but one of them, I worked with them at CH Robinson, and yeah, what a great experience that was. I mean, you're gonna learn a lot there. There's
Oh
they obviously know what they're doing. The market has expanded since that time, and there's a whole lot more brokerages out there these days. But yeah, you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn a lot there. So spent time at Robinson. Ended up leaving there. Went to Penske Logistics. Got a whole different side of the industry there.
Yeah.
Really spent some time. A lot of work in the automotive space, 4PL style business, a little bit different than what we're doing at CH Robinson, a much more managed program. Or managed programs, really diving into that 4PL space. And yeah, it was a lot of good things there. Found my way into another logistics company in Ephrata, Pennsylvania, focusing back on produce. And now here we are starting Quikskope.
No, that's fantastic. I want to ask. So you guys said you guys commuted back and forth for a while. And, Ed mentioned there was a lot of heated debates between kind of who chose the music. Who was kind of on some of those winning ends? Like who chose the music majority of the time?
Well, I don't know if there was a winner so much as an understanding. As I think we need to find something different.
Rule number one was driver chose the music, and Matt liked fish, and I didn't. So there's a lot of me being tortured on the way to work.
I'm a big Grateful Dead fan. Ed was not.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. I'm glad you guys were able to overcome that and start a company together. Because hey, listen, sometimes music can break a friendship.
We battled through.
Yeah, our love of Philly sports has endured. I think that's what really.
That's right.
Hey, listen,
some things are bigger than music.
So now I've got to ask you guys. Just Philly sports. You guys took a tough loss to the Knicks. How you guys feeling?
Not great.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. The process.
Listen, I'm a Bulls fan, so I can't talk any shit. We're dog water, so I can't say anything. But I feel bad for Maxi's breakout year to end like this with Embiid going down and he just didn't look like. I mean, he played well in the playoffs, but he still didn't there were some games he just did not look like himself. And yeah, it's tough.
Hey, if anybody from the Sixers organization is listening, I love Embiid, but you can't have a 7-foot guy out there 40 minutes a game and expect him to last all season. It's just not realistic. That's not an Embiid problem. No. So I don't know who's listening, but they've got my take.
Listen, Daryl, if you're listening, do something about this. Do something about this. So aside from sports, so we'll dive into, have you guys always, you guys have kind of been in 3PL, 4PL space for a long time. Have you guys always been entrepreneurial? Did you always see yourselves starting your own company? Or was there ever in those moments where you guys were commuting back and forth, some of those conversations hey, we don't want to do this long term. How can we what kind of business can we start to do something for ourselves?
Ed, you want to take that first?
I actually started a bit. Well, me and two of the other co-founders of Quikskope, Jordan and Mike, we actually started a business while we worked at Robinson, where we were selling jerseys on eBay.
Oh my gosh!
And so sports jerseys on eBay and locally to friends, and then we figured out that the things that we were selling may or may not have been licensed. So we quickly abandoned that business.
We still don't know. It's ignorance.
Yeah. Listen, it's up in the air. But we
those were double brokered jerseys. Don't know how they got there.
Yeah. I don't know. It was blind shipment. I don't know. But so we've always kind of had this entrepreneurial need, and I think Robinson fulfilled that. For me specifically, early on at Robinson, each office was its own P&L. And so if you could make a good case to your manager or GM that, hey, I think I can make money doing X or Y, and you could prove out concept and an ROI, I mean, you've got to explore and do different things. And so that part of Robinson was really cool, and it really fed into the entrepreneurial spirit, right? And then as things started to centralize a little bit and more of those decisions got stripped away, my lack of having that opportunity really started to build a scab that I needed to, kind of scratch. And so that's essentially why I left Robinson last year is, I wanted to be more entrepreneurial. I had an opportunity to join some folks that I knew and trusted and liked. And and really saw the vision that they had, not only for Quikskope, but for and Togo Technologies, which is the parent company, but for Togo Supply Chain Resource Group, which is our other company. And so that entrepreneurial spirit continues to live on, but it was definitely birthed at Robinson.
Yeah. For me, I would love to say, oh yeah, I knew from day one that I was born to be an entrepreneur. No, I don't think that was the case. I think somewhere down in there, you have that in you or you don't. But I think sometimes it takes a little bit to find it and realize that's where the fulfillment's going to come from. And it took me a little bit longer to realize that. And within the past couple of years, there's this itch you can't scratch. And the Quikskope opportunity came along, and I'm hearing from some guys that I've known for 15 years now and trust more, as much as anybody in the industry. And just as we were spitballing and coming up with ideas was, there's something here. And not only that, I'm realizing, hey, I've got an opportunity to really build something. And that's when I realized this is what I'm after.
No, that's awesome. And Matt, you kind of alluded to what I was going to kind of dive into next, was kind of like, what's kind of the founding story before we dive too much into like what Quikskope is, but what's kind of that founding story? Like, how did you guys decide? Like, I know, you guys have kind of that logistics insight, and you guys have been in the industry for a long time. So it was probably always going to be that you were going to build something in this space. But how did the idea of Quikskope come about? Like, what was maybe the idea that prompted it, and why did you guys know that you guys were going to build it together?
Yeah, I mean, for me, and again, this is Ed and I speaking, because at the end of the day, there's 6 of us, and everybody's really had their equal role in how we've gotten to where we are. So I want to be very, very clear on that. But
absolutely,
for me, I think it started with all of us kind of talking in pockets, right? These guys we're working more closely together, as Ed mentioned, on another business. I am not tied to that one, but I do stay close with these guys. And at the end of the day, with Quikskope specifically, the fraud problem is massive. I mean, I don't think anybody can really overstate that. I think it sounds probably a little obvious, but it's one of those things that you reach out to the people you trust in the industry. You reach out to the people that you think might have an idea of what's a good way to combat this problem. And as we all started talking more, it's, hey, let's get together. Let's really map this out. Let's come up with just some ideas, and turned into a bunch of us honestly in the Poconos, in the Pocono Mountains, just brainstorming. And we went through a bunch of ideas. And every time somebody thought they had something, it didn't take long for water to be poured on it, right? Like, that's not work. That's in fact, it's a terrible idea. I wish I didn't say it. But then we got to this Quikskope piece, and everybody kind of thought, well, hey, no, that is something. And I couldn't even tell you who really got the ball rolling on it. It was kind of this light bulb moment that seemed to hit the room all at once.
Yeah, when you get people with 100 years of collective experience in supply chain thinking about problems in the brokerage space in particular that could not only benefit brokers, but really everybody that's involved in the transaction, right? So how do we benefit carriers, shippers, and brokers, and really restore some trust back into the process? And that's where we focused and started to troubleshoot. And there were some wild ideas that got shot down pretty quick, but this one stuck, and we really knew it had legs, and that's what started us on our journey about, I would say it was probably about 15 months ago now, from, idea conception to getting, a viable product in the market about 2.5 months ago. So it was an incredible journey. We're not tech bros, like none of us are tech people. And so we really attack this from the standpoint of people that understand how brokerage operations work, understand how supply chain transactions happen. And so I think that gives us a pretty unique perspective to tackle the problem, right? Like, are we positioned well enough to address this issue? And I think with the amount of experience that we have, we're pretty well suited to tackle it. And so far, so good.
So, you just said something I wanted to dive into again is, you said you're not tech people, you're freight people, you're freight brokerage people, you know that space. So how has it been, how has it been for you guys breaking into the freight tech scene and trying to build a product like this when you guys, maybe not having some of that previous experience? How's that been? How's that process been?
It's something. I mean, we're like you said, we're not tech pros. We're learning a lot as we go. But I think the thing that Ed, myself, and a handful of the other guys on our team can really bring is we understand what's practical. We understand what can truly help a broker. We know that it is a lot for a broker to have to live in another system right now.
Yeah.
We know that a lot of the bells and whistles are great in some of these tools that are out there, but they don't make a lot of. Sometimes they're more trouble than they're worth. And so I think, we might not have it exactly figured out and have to lean on some resources to help us understand the true mechanics of it, the coding of it, and those sorts of things. We've got a very clear vision on what we need to do and what's going to really help combat some of these issues.
Yeah, and the strength of network, Thomas, right? So being that we've all been in the industry and worked for various large organizations and startups alike, we've got that network not only on the brokerage and shipper side, but on the carrier side as well. And then that just kind of spins into tech, right? Like there are a bunch of great tech companies out there, like you said, and while we might be foreign in that space in particular, the network has really helped us to gain some of those experts and really, get a good advisory board behind us to help us kind of fill some of those gaps that we might have. But I think, again, the positioning of understanding the problem at its heart and how brokerages operate is really one of our competitive advantages.
I want to dive into real quick. I want to talk about some of the stats and statistics on fraud and double brokering. So this is from the Wall Street Journal. This came out a while ago. The fraud epidemic in the supply chain, which interrupts the safe supply of custody of the nation's freight, is estimated to cost brokers, carriers, shippers, and consumers around $800 million each year. And this one's from CargoNet. This is $223 million in cargo was stolen in the U.S. and Canada in 2022. That's an increase of 20% over 2021. And we've also seen, I think, an increase. I don't have the exact figure, but I think it was like 600 and something percent from 2022 to 2023. So it's a widening gap, and more than 16% of carriers report they've been double brokered. That comes out from DAT. So with that being said, we're starting to see, I think last week or early this week, the FMCSA has announced, they're working on buffing up some of their systems. They're dedicating some new teams to help, stopping some of this fraud. But is it enough, right? Like, I don't think that it is. I mean, this has been a massive problem for years. I've been in the business for 7 years. I've known about double brokering for 7 years, but it wasn't as big of a problem as what it is today, especially on the carrier theft side, the actual theft of product, as well as these bad actors coming in and just rebrokering loads and never paying the carriers and disappearing. I think all of us can say we've heard of or found double brokering operations that were, skimming off the top and just kind of taking $100 here, $100 there, and trying to pretend like they're an actual brokerage, and they're paying carriers and things like that. And, when times are good and things are flying, they may fly under the radar a little bit better. But times like this, we start to really see these bad actors come out. So with that being said, what is Quikskope? What are you guys doing to help combat this issue? This is such a big issue. There are a lot of competitors out there in the space that are trying to help this issue, and it seems like, the issue is just kind of ballooning out of control. So what is Quikskope? What are you guys doing? And how are you guys helping everyone in the space?
Yeah, so one of the things that we noticed, and part of the reason why we started the conversation around fraud, was over the last 5 years, it's become more and more prevalent, right? The stats that you just shared alone are probably understated, in all honesty. I mean, there is no one in the supply chain that is safe from this issue, right? I was telling you earlier, Mark Gorland from Rody was on last week's podcast, and he made the comment that no one is immune from this problem. And so, it's really interesting. But the focus for most people in the space right now is on the pre-transaction vetting part of the process, right? And so making sure that the carrier has the authority, right? They have the insurance, the trucks are on the insurance policy. All of those things need to be done. We encourage the people that we talk to and our customers to do that. Do not change your vetting process. This does not replace that, right? That is very important and crucial to protecting your business, right? So this is more of a validation product, right? So did your vetting process work? Is the carrier that's on site picking up the load the carrier that you vetted, right? And so it's a verification of your front end process. So this lives inside the transaction. So after an agreement is made between the broker or the shipper and the carrier, is the carrier that you vetted and hired the carrier on site to pick up the load? And that's really what Quikskope does. It focuses in on in-transaction verification of the information that you're already vetted. Does that make sense?
It does. So let me ask you this: how does that work, right? So if I'm a broker and Ed, I just hired Matt to move a load, Matt Transportation 123, and he's about to get to the shipper. We've done all our verification. It comes back. It's Matt's Transport 123. How does Quikskope work, and how does that vetting, or how does that I guess you call it a validation process? How does that validation process work if I'm hiring Matt to do this one for me?
Sure. So if you hire Matt, right, we built Quikskope as a platform, not as an application. There's a lot of app fatigue out there, right? Not just for drivers, but ourselves.
Absolutely.
For instance, I went to a Major League Baseball spring training game 3 weeks ago, and I had to download an app to get my tickets. Like, what are we doing? I'm not going to use this again until next year. Why do I need this? Right? And so that app fatigue is real, and so we didn't want to create another application. And so this is a web-based portal. So what happens is the user enters in the data into the system via either a manual entry or a bulk upload or an API connection. And once they upload that information, you're talking, carrier name, MC, DOT number, all the stuff that you would validate, the pickup location and the delivery location.
Yeah.
They initiate a text message that gets sent to the driver. The driver then has to enter a 2-mile geofence around the shipper. Once they do that, they click a link. It provides their location back to Quikskope. In addition to that, they click on a button that opens up their camera, and they are instructed to take a photo of the side of the truck depicting the MC and or DOT number, whatever's on the side of the truck, including the company name. Once they provide their location, again, that comes from the phone's web browser, cannot be entered manually, and they provide the photo with the MC and DOT number. They submit that information back to Quikskope. Quikskope then verifies that the information provided by the driver matches the information that was entered by the user, and they're then release the pickup number. So the whole key in the process is whoever is deploying Quikskope is withholding the critical piece of pickup information in the pickup number. That incentivizes that the driver is going to complete the process, but additionally, they're the only person that gets that pickup number. There's no one else that has that number. They're the right person that gets it, and therefore eliminating a bit of fraud possibility there, right? And then as the user that the carrier that you vetted is the carrier on site that's there to pick up the order.
Yeah. It really is a last line of defense type model because the reality is, and to Ed's point, I don't think either of us could stress enough the importance of a fail-proof, as fail-proof as you can have, vetting process, right? It is key to every organization right now. You can't spend enough time and effort in your carrier vetting. But you also don't want to be the person that is, patient A, if you will, for a carrier that's gotten their identity stolen, right? So you plug all the right information in, you check the MC, this is everything checks out, right? This guy looks great. Well, that still doesn't necessarily mean you're talking to that carrier. And that's the most common thing we're running into right now is that it's the identity theft piece. Right. It's not necessarily the double brokering that, to your point, we've all known about double brokering for a long time. Yeah. Nobody's saying it's okay. Nobody's giving it a pass. But it's like this whole new, it's this whole new darker side of double brokering that is way more complex, ever evolving, and really does need to be stopped. Does need to be stopped at that transactional level. There's got to be a safety net there, and we think Quikskope is the way to do that.
No, I think that's really interesting. Ed, you had said something that I want to touch on. So you had said that I believe the carrier they get, like, I think you said they get a link and then they have to. If you want to go through that process one more time, I just want to make sure I get this correct. So once they send that process, how does that work again? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, sure. So the driver gets a text message link. They click on the link. It opens up our portal on their web browser. It asks them to do two things. One is share their location from their web browser, so their cell phone location. Additionally, they take that photo. When they click the button, it opens up their camera. Does not give them access to their photo gallery. So that photo is coming from that phone.
From a live.
Time. It's time stamped. Yup, it's from the camera. And additionally, the location is uploaded as well, right? And so now we've got those two critical pieces of information in order to ensure that the right carrier is getting the pickup number. On the converse side of that, I said earlier that the benefit is to the carrier as well. If a broker is utilizing Quikskope, we vetted that broker. So we're requiring things in order to have a broker on board with Quikskope. And so that ensures that the carrier knows they're working with a legitimate broker. Additionally, that carrier, let's say a new carrier, they have a lot of problems getting access to freight or getting on board. Right? I know a lot of vetting processes are alienating carriers with less than 6 months of authority. And that's great in certain scenarios, but it's a broad brushstroke, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that every carrier under 6 months of authority is a bad actor. And so we've had carriers approach us and say, hey, how does Quikskope help me get more freight? Well, if you go to a broker and say, I want to use this tool to prove to you that my driver is a driver on site and I'm going to ensure that I'm the one that gets paid, that's a completely different conversation coming from a carrier, right, than ever before. And so we want to really enable carriers to be able to do that as well. And then additionally, when the market tightens up and you've got to make that stretch as a broker to use a load board, you're going to be hesitant with all the fraud that's going on. We think Quikskope is going to enable brokers to take that extra additional step of security, right, to be able to use a load board effectively as the market continues to tighten.
I think that's huge, right? This industry is stressful enough. We all know that. It was stressful enough before this all started happening, right?
Right.
We're in a loose market, right? It doesn't get better in a tight market. And the reality is we're seeing this much fraud. We're seeing this much activity. We're seeing this problem occur when we're really not having to explore the load boards nearly like we're probably going to have to in about a year from now.
Right.
No, so absolutely. We want to really do what we can to get ahead of this and set the industry up for success.
No, I think that's great. And I think that the process in which you guys do it is really fantastic because, like you said, it eliminates app fatigue. The driver is just getting a quick link. It's easy to hit. It's easy to share your location. And that was something I wanted to touch on was, sharing the location, but also having that ability to share a photo that's not of them, like access to their photo gallery. So I think that's huge that you guys don't allow that. And then they actually have to take that picture of their live truck or of themselves and make sure that they are verifying who they are. That helps a lot. Now, let me ask you, so what is, you mentioned this, and I think this is interesting to talk about as well. What is the vetting process for brokers if they want to get on the platform? And how does that ensure, like you said, how does that ensure for carriers that they know that they're working with a legit broker?
Yeah, we've got a standardized onboarding process. We're requesting COIs. We're requesting W-9s. There's a plethora of information that we're upfront requiring of a broker. Additionally, we will not just let them sign up. So we have to have a conversation with that company.
Got it.
We typically like it to be on camera as we go through a demo of the platform itself, but really making sure that that broker is legitimate from the same kind of vetting process that we encourage them to use on carriers is the same vetting process that we're using on brokers themselves to make sure that they're legitimate and they're good actors, right? Again, the goal is to eliminate bad actors out of the industry. We're here to help fight that. And so we want to make the transaction secure for everybody involved again.
No, that's amazing. And something I think that is something else you touched on was how carriers can utilize this to approach brokers and say, hey, we use Quikskope and this is how we utilize it to make sure that that you're getting your freight is safe. Like this is my driver, this is my truck. And that's a completely different conversation. If a carrier is doing things like that to stand out, and if they're approaching not just brokers, but they're approaching their shipper partners who have likely lost hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars in shipments due to fraud and double brokering, rebrokering, theft, identity theft issues. This could be a real game changer to say, hey, this is a very easy way to connect, but also be able to say, hey, this is how you're going to get your pickup number every time. And that way no one else is getting that pickup number, no one else is getting that sensitive information. And that's a really great way to say, hey, 9 different people didn't touch this before it got to the driver. The dispatcher didn't touch it, and then he's on lunch, and then he forwards it to another dispatcher who's on lunch, who forwards it to someone else, and it may have been someone else may get tagged in the wrong email, and then some other carrier's got a pickup number they're not supposed to. Listen, that's happened to shippers. They've sent me plenty of wrong numbers, and I've got forwarded on chains and things I'm not supposed to be aware of. I am aware of, and so those happen. Those mistakes do happen, and it's costly for everyone. So I think that you guys are really going about it in a very interesting way. Now, go ahead, Matt. I think you wanted to say something. You looked like you were.
Well, I was going to just say I think you're right, and I think that the carrier side of, look, we've got a roadmap. We're looking ahead at how can we get this more engaged with shippers. What can we do to support our carriers, and helping the carriers. Truthfully, they're the ones that end up getting lost in a lot of this.
100%.
When the reality is, most of these carriers are not the criminal. They might have an operating authority less than a year old, but they may also have just had their identity stolen and had no other option but to start another trucking company. Problem is now they're blacklisted, right?
Right.
So giving those small owner operators another shot, finding ways to get these smaller companies that may be new to the industry for whatever reason, finding opportunities to get them back in the industry and minimizing the risk for the broker or shipper, that's just a massive, there's such a huge path forward there to benefit everybody.
No, let me ask you this. So how can, or how does, the overall landscape, how do you guys kind of see, like you were just kind of alluding to, but where do you see maybe you guys evolving over the next 3 to 5 years to really be able to service everyone, but also be able to take other looks at the industry and maybe be able to solve some wider issues as well?
Yeah, we're continuing to focus on, how do we add value inside of the transaction? So focusing on, after an agreement is made between a carrier and a broker, or a carrier and a shipper, how do we continue to add value until that load is delivered, and then maybe a little bit beyond that as well. But inside the transactions where we're really focused, we've got a lot of ideas, Matt. I don't know if you want to expound on some of them, specific to what we're thinking of how we add value to each party. Again, remember, the benefit is for a broker, a carrier, and a shipper, and we want to continue to build on that. So that's really where the roadmap is centered, is how do we add value for these 3 parties inside the transaction?
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're all after a secure supply chain, right? So that, today we're looking at, okay, well, let's make sure that we're focused on the carrier. Carrier that's there is who we hired. But there, to Ed's point, we've got other ideas here. When we talk to different shippers about what are their pain points, right? And one of the things that we keep hearing is validating and capturing accessorial charges accurately. So somebody sends 8 pallets to a receiver. Receiver gets it, says, hey, I only got 7 pallets. Driver says, well, I dropped 8. And by the way, I also had to, I had to assist or whatever. We're trying to find ways to bring document management, document uploads into the equation, right? So can the carrier submit a picture of themselves, of the product on the dock after they unload it, right? It's just another form of verification. That's a very high level example and not overly granular, but gives you an idea of kind of the roadmap there. Working more on the shipper angle, understanding what the pain points are there. Way down the road, we've talked about, is there a path forward here to work towards automated check-ins, so people aren't having to put as much into guard shacks and try to update some of the technology there, assigning a door based on this validation at the check-in process. That's way down the line, but again, as we work to have this secure supply chain, we're really looking at anybody that can benefit from this process and our tools.
Yeah, one of the things along that line there, that thread there, Thomas, is we already have the capability to upload VOLs.
Yeah.
So if as a driver gets loaded at the shipper, they can upload a VOL. The broker can then look at it and say, hey, I was tendered for 820 cases. They loaded 800. I already know I have an issue. Boom, send it to the shipper. You're already ahead of a problem or a headache that might happen later down the road. That's a great example of how do we add value inside the transaction. Same thing on the delivery end. Bill of lading can be uploaded. Now we're shortening the order to pay cycle for everybody, for the shipper, for the broker, for the carrier, right? We're getting money to the right people faster, increasing that speed of transaction. Again, adding value inside the transaction. We don't want to give away too much of the secret sauce because there's definitely a lot of competition sniffing around, but we've got some pretty big ideas in that.
We've got some big
area,
ideas.
I'm excited about a lot of them. Excited to bring them to market, excited to build them and bring them to market.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this: how do you see potentially AI playing a factor, whether that be in helping combat double brokering and fraud, but also potentially in the Quikskope roadmap as well?
Yeah, I'm one of the bullish people on AI in
Let's
the
go, man. Let's go.
Yeah. Efficiency, let's go. Lower cost per transaction. I'm in, right? But we really want to make sure that it's something that's a core to our business as a whole, and that's keeping people involved, but giving them the technology to be successful. So let's not replace folks with tech. But how do I get someone from, maybe managing, 40 loads a day to managing 500 loads a day? What do their AI assistants look like? And how do we weave that into Quikskope? We don't want to automate customer service yet. We want to be involved. We want hands-on advice, right? Like, from a customer service perspective, we're helping some of our clients build SOPs on how do we use Quikskope in our process. Again, like I said, we've got 100 years of experience, a lot of it in the brokerage space. So, let us help you. We'll lean on our experience. Mike and Alex on the team have implemented MacroPoint and Trucker Tools and Project 44 across large organizations. So we've been involved in the process of adopting new tech. And how do we make, one, the internal folks use it, but two, how do we get the external folks to use it? And so while I push for AI, everybody else is continuing to ground me in, hey, high-level customer service, people touch right now. Eventually, Ed will let you go nuts with robots, but for now, no.
I'm not as bullish, but I am in on AI. I think saying that you're out on it is a losing battle at this point. It's here, right? And I heard I was down at TIA and I heard one of the speakers say this, and it really stuck with me. I wish I could remember his name. It was a great presentation, but he had said, we really need to think about it. We need to stop thinking about AI replacing us and really think about working alongside AI. And I think that's that is the message, right? How do we work with AI? Ed's point, how does it make us more efficient? How do we take advantage of that? And the other side of this is, like anything that gets rolled out, any new technology, it's going to fix a lot of things, and it's going to create its own problems, right? Yeah. And with those new problems, we want to be positioned to help solve those problems. So AI, bring it on. Let's see what it can do. Let's work with it, and then let's keep our eyes open and see what's not working, so we can fix those problems.
No, for sure. I like I said, I'm very bullish on AI too. I think we've seen a lot of really cool companies pop up. One that comes right to mind is Happy Robot, where they're really helping automate the inbound call process and negotiating process, and then that way it takes 2 to 3 minutes away from a carrier sales rep or a broker who's doing this on their own. And then, once they actually have someone who's willing to do this load, it makes it a lot simpler to just transfer the call directly to the broker, and boom, you can start building that relationship. And I think that's kind of how the future of freight brokerage is going to look. You're going to have a lot more robots doing the inbound call taking from a lot of these from a lot of load postings and internal board postings, because it does take a lot of time. I remember being that junior broker who was answering for I started up at TQL, so I was on an account, I was answering phones and taking calls, and there were lanes that would blow up where we've got 45 calls and 3 people to answer them, and we've got 19 on hold. Other brokers are getting calls for us screaming, hey, we've got a call, and it's not efficient. But if you can have AI kind of take over that process and get you, if you've got 3 of those lanes or even 6 of those lanes, 1 of those lanes, you can start building those relationships, whether that be for today or in the future. Ed, I see you shaking your head. You're really bullish on Happy Robot.
Well, I've had conversations with them. Awesome product, love it. I had flashbacks to my first 5 years in brokerage, where it was like I'd hear two things at night in my sleep: phone ringing and someone screaming, "Phone! Someone answer the phone!"
Yep. Absolutely. Spot on, man. No, that's it. It's gonna. I think that those kind of tools and where that is shaping up, I think that it's gonna be really interesting to see how brokers adopt those technologies and kind of where they go in the future. Matt, you'd said something kind of interesting, and I just want to touch on it. There are a lot of competitors in this fraud space, right? I mean, 5 years ago there may have been a couple of small companies who were helping, do vetting and things like that, but we've really seen an explosion of companies. So what do you guys do to kind of stand out from the crowd in terms of both your product, both of some of your marketing to help, drive some of those new eyeballs to what you guys are trying to do?
Yeah, and I want to be careful because there are a lot of amazing products.
Absolutely.
Out there.
Yeah.
I certainly am not out to critique any of them. Everybody's on their own journey, right? Trying to work towards the greater good here to make this to help solve this problem. To Ed's point, living in the transaction, that's a differentiator for us. I have not seen, and not to say they aren't there, I have not seen a lot of other products that are out to take on that in the transaction piece, piece of the equation. And I think, as basic as it sounds, we're not tech people driving a logistics solution. We're logistics people that are trying to drive a tech solution. That is another piece of this where it does happen. Don't get me wrong, but just the collection of talent on our team, and I know that might sound arrogant, but it's one of the most talented teams that I've been part of. The level of experience and what we bring from an understanding of what's practical, what's not, what is applicable, and what's not.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I think really can separate us from some of the other products that are out there or may enter our space.
No, that's fantastic, guys. I have two more quick questions before we run. I want to be cognizant of everyone's time and get everyone's rolling. But hey, so you guys have a really interesting name, Quikskope, and I should have asked this earlier. Where did it come from? I think it's a really cool name, and I think that it kind of ties into kind of your mission. But where did it come from?
Don't give Mike the win, man. You're giving Mike the win right now. We had some heavily heated debates while we were kicking around names and whatnot, but it harkens back to a business trip that we had together in the woods, and we were doing a little bit of hunting and stuff, and Mike thought he was so good with the gun he could quickscope things, and that's legitimately what it was born out of.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
Mike, good job. That's bravo. Yeah. That's good. Were there any other
that out?
Yeah, can we edit that?
Editors, we're keeping that in. No, but seriously, so were there any other competing names that you guys were kind of going off over, kind of had an idea of, and just they didn't end up the winner?
There was a number of them. It's I think we had some out the gate. I think Secure MC was one of them, and then that felt like we might be pigeonholing ourselves a little bit.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. We kept trying to think of names that were bigger than what we had in mind at the time. And most of the good ones were taken. So we went through a number of rounds. I mean, you'd look at your phone, you'd be gone for 10 minutes, and you have 40 text messages of people firing off the names. But yeah, Secure MC was one that was there right out the gate. But when we hit Quikskope, I mean, that was a universal, that's it.
No, I think that's cool because it's right on the money. You're Quikscope what you're doing. It's not as invasive. I think that you guys are right on the money with what you guys are doing. I'm really bullish about what you guys are doing, and that leads into my last one. Matt and Ed, I both want to ask you individually what you guys are most bullish on for the rest of 2024. We're just got into quarter two, not terribly long ago. So what are you guys most bullish on for the rest of the year?
Ed, you want to take that, or you want me to?
Go ahead, Matty.
I mean, in terms of the overall marketplace, I thought that 2024 we were more likely to see a rebound in the back half of the year. I'm not as certain as I would have been, in January. I really felt like we were heading in the right direction. I'm confident that 2025 we will see a turnaround. And that by the end of 2024, the signs will be there. I don't know that we're going to have that summer pop that we're used to seeing. I think we would have seen a lot more of indicators,
Yeah.
favoring the carrier by this point. Haven't really seen those. But I do think we've hit a level of stability. So I'm bullish in the fact that I feel like we have seen the bottom, and that a turnaround is certainly within the next 2 to 3 quarters.
Yeah, I'll start off with one of my favorite lines, which is this is a forecast and it's right until it's not, right? That's one of my favorites. So, I think I summed it up previously in the way that we need both dials to turn, in my opinion, right? So
right.
we need an uptick in demand and a continued downturn in supply in order for us to feel anything. We'll see pockets of tightening like we do in any market, but I don't think we're going to see any significant shifts without both of those things turning in opposite directions. And once we hit that crucial point of enough capacity left, enough demand came in, that's when we'll start to see, rates tick up in the spot market, contract rates follow suit, so on and so forth, and we'll start to see a bit more of a freight market.
Yeah, no, I think you guys are spot on, and I wanted to appreciate you guys for coming on the show today. Appreciate your time, because this was a lot of fun. I think the audience is going to get a lot of value out of it, because it does hit so close to home for a lot of us who are in the industry, who do listen to the show, who are freight brokers, who are shippers and carriers, who are having some of these issues and dealing with these issues every day. So it's good to talk to other guys who live the life and deal with these issues every day. If our audience wants to get in touch with you guys, or they want to learn a little bit more, how can they find you guys online?
Yeah, sure. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Twitter, or X now. Additionally, our website is www.quikskope.com with K's, no C's in there, so quikskope.com. You can reach out to us at info@quikskope.com. Those would be the best ways to get in touch. You can shoot us a note on LinkedIn as well. Super active there. That's pretty much it. But we're here to help. Like I said, we've helped customers onboard and design ways to implement this in their processes, right? And the benefit is for the carrier, the shipper, and the broker. So don't hesitate to reach out and have a conversation. We love innovation. We want to get creative with folks, and that's what we're here to do.
Yeah. Honestly, Ed and I, we might not be verified on Twitter or on LinkedIn, but if you want to reach out to either of us individually, we're both available to talk to anybody that has questions.
Awesome. Make sure you guys check out Ed, Matt, and all their co-founders at Quikskope. We'll have all the links in the comments or the podcast description. If you guys like today's show, make sure you guys give it a like and review. And don't forget, we do drop 3 weekly newsletters, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at thinkfreight.io. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. And don't forget to think freight.